Hi everyone. Today I'm going to answer some of the most common questions parents have about distance learning. The question I have been asked the most over the past week or two is what should I prioritize with my child each day? And so my answer to that question is your relationship. Seriously. We are not in normal times right now, and regardless of what happens to education over the next few months or maybe even year, a healthy relationship with your child is the most important. And I say that speaking from experience. I've had two children graduate from online school. I currently have a senior in online school and a sixth grader. And so I've had to learn how to navigate the role of principal, teacher, paraprofessional, gym teacher, whatever my child needs at the time. And it's not always easy. And learning how to step into those roles when you're needed and how to step out of them again when you are not needed is extremely important. And it's a good way to make sure that your relationship with your child stays healthy. It's also a good reminder that when work becomes too overwhelming or frustrating for your child, that you actually have the control to give them permission to step away, to start over, to reset at another time. And so just make sure that you are using your role to keep a positive relationship with your child. The next common question is how much screen time is appropriate for my child? And I would like to tell you here's a chart, and the experts have put it together, but there are a lot of differing opinions out there on screen time. My opinion is that it needs to be what's in the best interest of the child. So some students are really good at reading on the screen and they know how to navigate a computer independently and use their resources. Other students need physical materials and face-to-face interaction. Most students need a healthy balance of both. So figuring out what that healthy balance is really important, and communicating with the classroom teacher about what your child actually needs from them is also important. I tell my families to think about educational activities in a different way than what they're used to. So students in the brick and mortar have passing time, downtime in regular classes, resource rooms, lunchtime, recess. Those are all opportunities for students to learn things. And so when you are educating your child at home, you need to think about those learning activities that they're engaging with in your home. And they're going to look different than what they're used to at brick and mortar, but also they are opportunities for learning to take place. So for instance, if a child is outside participating in some kind of physical activity, that is part of an educational day. If your child is reading a book instead of sitting on a screen listening to a book, that is also part of their educational day. And so you need to take that into consideration with screen time and how much time your child is actually spending on their schoolwork during the day. All of those learning activities should be taken into account when you figure out what kind of a schedule works best for your child. One overarching theme that I found in the feedback that I received from families in the past week and a half has been that teacher expectations are too much. And so that could be regarding screen time, assignments, software use, whatever. It really was a huge variety of things that parents were telling me was too much. And so my recommendation to you is to communicate that with your classroom teacher. There is one thing about distance learning and online learning, and that is the lack of face-to-face interaction. So in a classroom setting, teachers are really good at gauging what students are receptive to and what they're understanding, and they're good at reading those nonverbal cues from their students to know if they need to reteach something or provide more support. And so in this setting, you cannot see that from your students. And so it's really important either for you as the parent to communicate that with the classroom teacher or to support your child to communicate that with the classroom teacher. And it's one thing that I tell my students all the time. I don't know what you know in the setting unless you're telling me. And so I can't see your face. And a lot of times, if you're feeling frustrated, so are other people. So being clear about communication and specifically what your child's needs are is really important. And I know as educators, we're always working on making sure that students are receiving the most support and the best instruction at this time. And the best way for us to do that is to hear from you as a parent about what your child's needs are. The last thing that I wanted to address is the digital divide. And I received a lot of feedback from families telling me that they were being impacted by the digital divide and that the implications were either that they had the technology and the resources but didn't know how to use them, or they didn't have the technology and the resources. And so my recommendation as a parent is that you share that with a classroom teacher. Right now, we're seeing the digital divide affect families across the nation, and it's becoming obvious that these things are causing issues with equity in our education. And so, working with a classroom teacher to come up with a good plan to make sure that your child has some form of instruction and some consistency is key. And also work with your classroom teacher to help you learn how to use the programs and the technology that you may have available to you. I work regularly with parents, showing them how to navigate our system, teaching them how to use resources that I provide to their students. And that just makes us all a better team. And it makes the student feel like they are also important enough for us to take the time to figure out how to support them best in this setting.